Right now, your body might be quietly dissolving its own skeleton just to keep your heart beating.
And you wouldn't even feel a thing.
Exactly. I mean, today we are decoding the silent alarms your biology sends as you get older. Because usually when we think about our body's communicating problem, we expect it to be loud, right?
Oh, totally. We are entirely wired to respond to acute flashing red lights.
Right, like you touch a hot stove, your nerves scream at you to pull your hand back.
Or you skip lunch and your stomach growls so intensely the whole room hears it.
Yeah. It's immediate, it's obvious, and, well, you know exactly how to fix it.
Because the survival mechanisms of a younger body are designed to be obnoxious when they need immediate attention.
But when you cross that invisible threshold into your 50s, the alarm system fundamentally changes.
It really does. The body stops shouting and it starts whispering.
The diagnostic landscape just becomes incredibly subtle. So if you're a learner who wants those aha moments without, drowning in medical jargon, this custom-tailored deep dive is for you.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
We are looking at this eye-opening guide called 7 Silent Signs of Vitamin Deficiency After 50. Our mission here is to decode those quiet signals that they're almost universally dismissed.
Right. People just say, well, I guess I'm getting older.
Exactly.
And normalizing a state of feeling suboptimal is honestly one of the biggest pitfalls of aging. We just assume that a sudden decline in energy or, a shift in mood is just the inevitable toll of adding another candle to the birthday cake.
Which is so frustrating.
It is. The source material makes a very compelling argument that what feels like unavoidable aging is frequently just your body asking for a raw material it isn't getting anymore.
And if you ignore those whispers long enough, they manifest into physical damage that is much harder to reverse.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because life after 50 genuinely is harder on the body.
It is.
But the guide clarifies that this isn't because you are, suddenly failing at your diet. It's because the internal machinery fundamentally changes how it operates.
What's fascinating here is that the core issue isn't what you eat, but what you actually absorb.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It's massive. I mean, the digestive environment shifts dramatically over the decades. The stomach produces less acid. The kidneys, well, they lose some of their vigor in activating specific vitamins.
And even the skin changes, right?
Yeah, the skin undergoes structural changes that make it far less efficient at synthesizing things like vitamin D from sunlight.
So you add in a lifetime of minor gut issues like reflux, or maybe a round of strong antibiotics, occasional bloating, and your absorption capacity just takes a massive hit.
Exactly. You could be eating the proverbial perfect diet and still be starving on a cellular level.
That brings us to the most universal symptom people experience but almost always write off, which is exhaustion.
Oh, yes.
And we aren't talking about being tired after a long workday. We are talking about persistent, heavy fatigue.
The kind of bone-deep tired that a nap just doesn't touch.
Right. You sleep for 8 solid hours, you wake up, and you feel like you just ran a marathon in wet cement.
And that unrelenting heaviness is the classic hallmark of a vitamin B12 deficiency.
Wow.
It is staggering how common this is in people over 50. And yet it frequently slips under the radar because, well, fatigue is such a nonspecific complaint.
So why does B12 matter so much for our energy? What is it actually doing in the blood?
So B12 is essentially the project manager for DNA synthesis in your red blood cells.
Okay.
When you have enough B12, your body produces these sleek, normal-sized red blood cells that zip through your capillaries, delivering oxygen everywhere.
Makes sense.
But without adequate B12, the red blood cells can't divide properly during their creation. They end up abnormally large, clunky, and incredibly inefficient.
Oh, so they physically struggle to carry the oxygen.
Exactly. When oxygen delivery drops across your systemic network, your brain feels foggy because it's essentially suffocating.
That sounds terrifying.
Your muscles feel weak. Even your digestion slows down because the gut tissue isn't getting the oxygen it needs.
It's like having a full tank of gas in your car, but the fuel line is severely pinched.
That is a perfect way to put it.
You are eating the food, you're putting the fuel into the tank, but the engine isn't getting the combustible material.
And the reason that fuel line gets pinched after 50 comes down to a highly specific stomach protein called intrinsic factor.
Intrinsic factor, okay.
B12 is a massive molecule, and it cannot cross the intestinal wall on its own. It absolutely requires intrinsic factor to bind to it.
Like a VIP pass to get into the bloodstream?
Like a VIP pass, exactly.
Yeah.
As we age, our stomachs simply manufacture less of this intrinsic factor,
So you could eat a massive steak or like a dozen eggs.
which are loaded with B12.
Right, but without that VIP pass, the B12 just passes entirely through your digestive tract unabsorbed.
Exactly.
Wait, so, and this is a big question for me. My doctor told me stomach acid is the enemy. It causes heartburn. It damages the esophagus over time.
Right, that's what we usually hear.
So why on earth would I want more of a damaging acid? And how does taking a medication to stop acid reflux end up draining my energy?
I know it sounds entirely counterintuitive because we've been marketed the idea that stomach acid is inherently bad.
Right.
In reality, a highly acidic stomach is crucial for the very first step of B12 absorption. When you eat meat, the B12 is tightly bound to the animal proteins.
Oh, so it's stuck.
Yeah, it's tracked. You need a strong bath of hydrochloric acid to break those protein bonds and liberate the B12 so it can eventually bind to the intrinsic factor we just talked about.
Okay, so what happens when you take an acid reflux medication?
Well, those medications, particularly proton pump inhibitors, are incredibly effective at suppressing stomach acid to stop the burning.
Which feels great in the moment.
It does.
Yeah.
But by creating a neutral, low-acid environment in the stomach, they prevent you from breaking down the food matrix.
Oh.
The B12 stays trapped in the meat protein and just exits the body. By solving the immediate discomfort of heartburn, you inadvertently create a long-term blockade in your nutritional supply chain.
That makes complete sense when you look at the mechanics, but it's just wild to think that fixing your heartburn could cause your brain to feel starved of oxygen 2 years later.
It really is. It's all connected.
So let's follow this idea of systemic drain into how it affects us physically, specifically the tension in our muscles.
Yes.
Like waking up in the middle of the night with your calf muscles seized up into a rock-hard knot. Most people try to massage it out and go back to sleep, but this is actually a glaring signal of low magnesium, right?
It is. Magnesium is a fascinating, heavily utilized mineral. It acts as a cofactor in over 300 biochemical reactions. Over 300. But its relationship with muscle tissue is particularly vital. Muscle movement relies on a strict on-off switch.
Okay.
Calcium floods into the muscle fiber to cause a contraction. But magnesium is required to sweep that calcium back out and allow the muscle to relax.
So what happens when you're low?
When your magnesium stores are depleted, that delicate ion pump fails. The calcium stays in the muscle fiber and the muscle locks up, entirely out of your control.
Wow. Now, I bet a lot of listeners are probably thinking they eat plenty of dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and almonds.
Which are all great sources of magnesium.
Right. But the sources highlight that our everyday habits are actively stripping this mineral from our bodies, like coffee, alcohol, and very common blood pressure medications.
Yeah, you might be taking in plenty of magnesium through whole foods, but caffeine and alcohol are diuretics.
Meaning they make you pee more?
Exactly. They alter the filtration rate in your kidneys, forcing your body to flush out water, and along with it, water-soluble minerals like magnesium at a drastically accelerated rate.
That's frustrating.
And many common blood pressure medications, specifically thiazide diuretics, function on this exact same mechanism to lower blood volume. You are essentially pouring magnesium into a bucket with a hole in the bottom.
But if someone goes to the doctor to investigate these cramps, the standard blood test for magnesium is actually incredibly deceptive.
It is deeply flawed. The human body will do whatever it takes to keep you alive in the next 5 minutes.
Right.
The amount of magnesium in your blood serum is rigorously defended because your heart muscle requires a highly specific concentration to maintain a steady rhythm.
To avoid cardiac arrest.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So only about 1% of your body's total magnesium is kept in the blood. The other 99% is stored inside your cells and bones.
Ah, so it's hidden away.
Right. If your intake drops, or if coffee and medications force your kidneys to excrete too much, your body will rapidly pull magnesium out of the cellular storage to keep the blood levels perfect.
So you go to the clinic, they draw your blood, and they tell you your magnesium is completely normal.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the cells in your calf muscles are completely bankrupt, screaming for resources.
Yes. The test is looking at the transport highway, completely ignoring that the storage warehouse is empty. The standard serum magnesium test provides a false sense of security.
That fundamentally changes how you look at a normal lab result.
It really should. It only flags as low when you are in a state of absolute life-threatening depletion.
This triage system, where the body ruthlessly cuts resources from one area to protect the vital organs, it also shows up very visibly with hair thinning, doesn't it?
It does. Hair thinning is deeply distressing, and the connection to ferritin, which is your body's storage form of iron, is frequently missed.
Because the body treats iron a lot like it treats magnesium?
Yes, it prioritizes the absolute essentials. Iron is required to make hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen to your brain and heart. From a survival standpoint, hair follicles are an extravagant luxury.
For postmenopausal women, the assumption is usually, well, I'm no longer menstruating, I'm not losing blood every month, so my iron levels must be completely fine.
And that logic holds up until we look at the state of the aging gut.
What do you mean?
Frequent use of over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medications for joint pain like ibuprofen can cause microscopic damage to the stomach lining.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you can develop tiny, silent gut ulcers that weep small amounts of blood. It isn't enough to notice in the bathroom, but over months and years, this invisible microbleeding drains your ferritin reserves.
The body looks at the internal ledger and sees a deficit.
Yep.
So it decides to cut the budget for hair production to keep the heart running. It literally deprioritizes the hair follicles, pushing them into a resting phase.
And you start seeing thinning, breaking, or zero new growth. The hair loss isn't just a cosmetic annoyance of getting older. It is a visible manifestation of an internal resource crisis.
The body is incredibly smart, but it's ruthless. It's willing to sacrifice hair to keep the blood pumping.
Very ruthless.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. What happens when the structural shortage isn't in the blood, but in the actual scaffolding of the skin and the chemistry of the brain itself?
Moving on to vitamin D and vitamin C.
Let's look at vitamin D first, because we usually just hear about it for strong bones. But the sources link it heavily to low mood, sadness, irritability, and a loss of motivation.
Vitamin D is structurally closer to a hormone than a traditional vitamin. Its role in brain chemistry is just profound.
How so?
There are vitamin D receptors throughout the brain, particularly in areas associated with depression. It actively regulates the enzyme that converts the amino acid tryptophan into serotonin.
Serotonin, the happiness chemical.
Exactly. It's the primary neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of well-being, mood stabilization, and happiness. If you are feeling chronically flat, apathetic, or irritable, especially during the darker winter months.
You might be experiencing a literal chemical shortage in serotonin production.
Precisely.
But wait, if I'm 60 and I go outside and stand in the sun for 20 minutes, I should be making plenty of vitamin D, right? I mean, the sun is still the sun.
The sun hasn't changed, but your skin's manufacturing equipment has.
Oh, come on.
I know. To make vitamin D, UV rays from the sun have to penetrate the skin and react with a specific cholesterol derivative.
Okay, what is it called?
It's called 7-dehydrocholesterol. As we age, the epidermis thins, and the concentration of this precursor chemical plummets.
By how much?
By the time you reach your 60s, your skin has about half the 7-dehydrocholesterol it had in your 20s.
Half.
Half. You can stand in the exact same patch of sunlight for the exact same amount of time as you did decades ago, and your biological factory simply lacks the raw materials to produce the same yield.
That is a staggering mechanical shift. And we see a similar slowdown when it comes to physical repair and vitamin C.
Yes, the slow healers.
The classic sign is a wound that just won't heal. You get a scrape in the garden and 3 weeks later is still lingering. Or a minor bump turns into a dark bruise that lasts a month.
Which is very common.
But when I hear vitamin C deficiency, I immediately picture an 18th century pirate ship and scurvy.
Right, people think of scurvy. Severe scurvy is rare, but mild to moderate vitamin C deficiency is surprisingly prevalent.
Why is that?
Well, vitamin C is a non-negotiable component in the synthesis of collagen.
Which is for our skin, right?
Skin, and so much more. Collagen is a structural protein twisted into a triple helix. It is the literal scaffolding of your body. It forms the structure of your skin, the walls of your blood vessels, and your connective tissues.
Okay, so without it...
Without adequate vitamin C, those collagen helices can't form tightly. The structural integrity becomes fragile. The walls of your capillaries break easily from a minor bump, leaking blood and causing those lingering bruises. The skin struggles to knit itself back together after a scrape.
And the sources say if someone is under chronic stress or if they smoke, they are essentially throwing their vitamin C reserves into an incinerator.
Because the body burns through it dealing with the oxidative stress, yes.
So if I realize I have these lingering bruises, the instinct is to go buy a massive 2,000 milligram pill of vitamin C and take it once a week to catch up.
Which is a terrible idea.
The guide warns that this approach fails completely. Why?
Because vitamin C is highly water-soluble. Your body lacks any mechanism to store it long-term.
Okay.
When you ingest a massive dose, the digestive tract absorbs what it can use in that exact moment, and the kidneys rapidly filter the excess out into your urine,
So you just pee it out.
basically.
Yeah.
Trying to fix a deficiency with a massive weekly dose is like trying to water a delicate plant by dumping a 50-gallon barrel of water on it all at once.
The plant takes a tiny sip and the rest washes away the topsoil.
Exactly. Our biology requires a slow, steady drip. Small, consistent daily amounts from food or lower-dose supplements align with how our cellular machinery actually operates.
It's all about consistency over intensity.
Always.
But now we have to shift gears. We've covered the mood dips, the thinning hair, the slow healing. We need to talk about what happens when the body's whispers are ignored for so long that they become shouts.
Right. This is where it gets very serious.
We are talking about sometimes irreversible nerve and bone damage.
This is the territory where ignoring the signals carries a permanent cost. The source material highlights persistent tingling, numbness, or a crawling pins and needles sensation in the hands, feet, or lower legs.
Which cycles us right back to B12. We talked about it earlier regarding red blood cells and fatigue, but it has a completely different critical job in the nervous system.
Yes. B12 is essential for maintaining the myelin sheath.
The what?
The myelin sheath. If you picture the nerves in your body like copper electrical wires carrying signals from your brain to your toes, the myelin sheath is the protective rubber insulation wrapped around those wires.
Oh, I see.
B12 is required to synthesize the lipids that make up that insulation. When B12 levels remain severely low for a prolonged period, that myelin sheath degrades.
It's literally a frayed wire in a house. The insulation wears away and the electrical signals start to short circuit.
Exactly. And that misfiring is the tingling and the numbness you feel in your feet.
But fatigue resolves fairly quickly when you replenish your B12, right?
But fatigue resolves fairly quickly when you replenish your B12.
Right.
It does. But unlike fatigue, nerve damage from a degraded myelin sheath operates on a different timeline.
Uh-oh.
If the insulation remains stripped for too long, the underlying nerve fiber dies. At that point, the structural damage reaches a point of no return. The numbness becomes permanent.
That is terrifying. And the guide calls out folks with type 2 diabetes specifically, especially those who've been on the drug metformin for years. How does a diabetes drug end up fraying your nerves?
Metformin is incredibly effective at controlling blood sugar, but it alters the calcium-dependent cell membranes in the lower part of your intestine.
Which is where B12 is absorbed.
It is the exact location. It physically blocks the absorption pathway. Decades of taking the medication can slowly starve the nervous system of B12, leading to neuropathy that is often mistakenly blamed entirely on the diabetes itself.
Wow. Which brings us to the final major warning sign. A deep, dull aching in the bones or feeling like your legs are physically heavy. Not muscle soreness after a long walk, but an ache deep inside the limb.
This brings us back to the interconnectedness of these systems,
Yeah.
specifically vitamin D and calcium.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, vitamin D acts as the gatekeeper for calcium absorption.
Meaning I could drink a gallon of milk, but without vitamin D, the calcium doesn't make it into my blood.
Correct. The calcium just passes right through your digestive tract. But your blood requires a very specific, non-negotiable concentration of calcium at all times to ensure your heart muscle can contract.
Right, back to the heart.
If the blood isn't getting calcium from your diet because the vitamin D gate is locked, the body initiates a crisis response. It releases specialized cells called osteoclasts.
What do they do?
These cells attach to your bones, secrete acid to break down the bone matrix, and release the stored calcium directly into your bloodstream.
It's like taking load-bearing bricks out of your own foundation just to fix a hole in the roof.
This is a grim but accurate picture.
You solve the immediate problem, but your house is slowly becoming structurally compromised. Your body is dissolving its own skeleton just to keep the daily operations running.
And that deep, dull ache is the physical sensation of your bone density being drained. It is a slow, silent theft.
Unbelievable.
By the time this depletion shows up on a standard bone density scan as osteoporosis, the foundation has been compromised for years, sometimes decades.
So what does this all mean? We need to focus on what to do about this. The goal here isn't to terrify anyone about every little tingle in their foot.
Definitely not.
The goal is empowerment. Let's distill the concrete, actionable steps from our sources so you can turn this ship around before a whisper becomes permanent damage.
The first step is highly practical. Write your symptoms down before you go to the clinic.
Such a good idea.
Do not rely on your memory in the sterile, high-pressure environment of a doctor's office. If you have profound fatigue, nighttime calf cramps, or lingering bruises, document the frequency and severity.
Step 2. Request specific tests. Routine checkups usually run a basic metabolic panel, which misses the nuances we've discussed.
They miss almost all of it.
You need to explicitly request a B12 test, a ferritin test for iron storage, an intracellular magnesium test if possible, and specifically the vitamin D25OH test. Why the 25OH specifically?
Standard vitamin D tests sometimes measure the active form of the vitamin, which fluctuates wildly based on what you did that morning.
So it's not accurate.
Right. The 25OH test measures the stable, stored reservoir of vitamin D in your liver. It gives an accurate picture of your true systemic supply.
And if a doctor pushes back and says these tests aren't necessary,
You politely but firmly ask them to document the refusal to run the tests in your patient chart.
oh, I like that.
It is amazing how often that simple request prompts a physician to reconsider and order the panel. You have to advocate for your own diagnostic clarity.
Step 3 involves tweaking those daily habits. Get 15 to 20 minutes of daily sun exposure even on cloudy days to give your skin whatever chance it has to manufacture vitamin D.
Yes, every little bit helps.
Focus on a varied diet of whole foods like leafy greens, nuts, fish, but also evaluate the drainers. Be mindful of how much coffee and alcohol are flushing water-soluble nutrients out of your system.
And finally, if you supplement, remember the sponge analogy.
Right. Consistency beats high doses. A small daily amount of vitamin C or B12 is far more bioavailable than a massive, sporadic megadose.
Absolutely.
If there is one thing to take away from this deep dive, it is this. Your body after 50 is not failing you. It is communicating differently. Aging well doesn't mean ignoring the subtle changes, and it doesn't mean panicking over them.
Well, not at all.
It means paying attention with curiosity and giving your shifting biology the specific materials it needs to repair itself.
You know, if our modern medical system is primarily designed to hunt down acute diseases, clear infections, and manage immediate threats, it raises a significant question about our long-term care.
What's that?
Are we entirely on our own when it comes to decoding these slow, decades-long nutritional shifts?
That's a sobering thought.
Perhaps the future of aging well isn't about sitting back and waiting for a doctor's official diagnosis of a disease, but rather stepping up and becoming the lead investigator of your own biology.
Becoming the lead investigator. At the end of the day, you are the only one who knows what it actually feels like to live inside your body. The dashboard might not be flashing a bright red warning light anymore, but the gauges are still there. You just have to know how to read them. Until next time, keep listening to those whispers. Take good care of yourself. You've earned it.